Oskar would make grand claims that he was developing ways to save the world and help people be more conscious of their spiritual health by giving me money.
Oh, Arnold, I need money. I'm desperate, little buddy. You gotta help me.
Hello, friends, and welcome back to ReddX, your source for the freshest daily cringe content anywhere on the internet. Promise swearsies, it's just a fact, and it's totally science. Go ahead, look it up. Thanks so much. I saw an old friend's name pass across my desk. Yes, indeed, it's Roaming Rivers with another post. He wrote Tale of Three Beards. There's also Bizarro Beard, Social Beard, Chair Beard, Booger Beard. Like, Roaming Rivers has a lot of one-offs. So I was excited to see it. This looks like a series, possibly. But really, I'd be interested in anything that fella has to write. So let's get into it and check it out today, as we do. Oskar the Drunk. Drunk unemployed roommate blames society. Part 1. I mean, a lot of people who are abject failures tend to blame society for their failures. It's a lot easier than looking inwardly and being like, oh, maybe this is something I need to work on with myself. But hello, ReddX and my fellow subscribers. Hi, Roaming Rivers, my friend. This is such a long time. I've been silently watching the channel for a good amount of time now, and it just seems to up the ante when it comes to hits of cringe. Very kind words, thank you so much. The Moby Vic saga was something else entirely, LMAO. I mean, Lady Angelia delivers the goods. She's always got the best cross posts, so thank her for that one, 100%. But well, as all good things must end, the Chaos God in charge of Neckbeards has decided to send a few unsavory cultists my way, even as I live that peaceful life of outdoor activity, sobriety, and self-improvement. You can never truly escape it, man. When it's your time, it's your time. You're gonna have this interaction. The universe is gonna try and teach you some sort of lesson, and then hopefully it ends before it hurts too much. Anyway, today I will be bringing you the first of at least a two-part series about a rather unsavory roommate that I had to deal with for a few months as I continually worked towards my career goals. Roommate stuff basically always sucks.
When you live here, it makes me feel angry because you're a horrible roommate and nobody in this house likes you.
I've shouted it from the rooftop 1,000 times now, but I'll do it one more. It sucks. The cast list is a bit complex, so I'll just be introducing them when they're relevant. Some details may not be entirely clear. A lot of hostile housemate politics that would make Game of Thrones look sane by comparison, even if Game of Thrones was rated PG-13. So, pour yourself some drinks, grab a snack or something, and step inside the armored beard safari train. I spared no expense to avoid more injuries and lawsuits. I mean, ReddX Industries lawyers are on point, but I do appreciate the foresight. As usual, names, locations, dates, etc. have been kept as vague as possible in order to protect all parties involved. There's also a few trigger warnings for heavy alcohol use, grievous bodily harm, a bit of sexism, threats of self-deletion, and also emotional maltreatment. Well, great. Seems like we're running the gamut. Let's see if we can squeeze any actual laughs out of this, or if it's just going to be sad boy hours. Second trigger warning. Oh, God. Don't do a second one.
I can't take this shit no more, man.
In some parts of this tale, I do tap into some of the worst parts of myself, as I get the impression that some members of the audience will look at me differently afterwards. Honestly, a lot of the reason I haven't told stories of my own on this channel. I just want to be upfront and honest about the events of this tale and admit that I am still a deeply flawed man. I feel that I'm a villain at some parts of this tale. Yeah, but you're a villain with some insight. You're an interesting one. Truth is, we're all deeply flawed. I guess the difference is made in like how you work around that, how you try to build yourself past it. Anyway, now we are on to the tale. So, I had been living in my home country, trying to get my career in the great outdoors going. I had been having a rough patch in steady work, as all I could get was seasonal work. While I was certainly learning at each job that I work at during that year and a half, I felt that my skills and degree were going to waste. Bro, you don't need a degree to be a lumberjack. You don't even need a GED to be a lumberjack.
I'm a lumberjack and I'm okay. I sleep all night and I work all day.
Just pick up your axe and get out there. OP says, I applied all over the country looking for work that would fit my career ambitions until I struck gold. Too good to be true, was it? I managed to find work at a winter gear shop several states away, and though the work was seasonal, it was in a region where I could find more seasonal work that would also suit my needs. I found a room in a house in an online forum, and to admit my own fault, I overlooked a huge red flag in my blind ambitions to build my resume and career. Yeah, taking a Craigslist roommate, that's the lowest of the low. But you do got some gumption taking that off. Surely it will be rewarded at some point. When I asked if the landlady would be emailing me a link to do the background check, a practice that I was quite used to, she said not to worry about it because she preferred the honor system, that people were still inherently good. I still kick myself for being blinded enough by my ambitions that I overlooked that giant, bright red flag, still dripping red dye onto the ground. Honestly, that red flag probably would have slipped past me too. I've never done a background check. I usually just have a friend and become their roommate. That's how it worked. That's how it still works, come to think of it. After driving across 4 states to get to the town that I'd be staying in, it was clear that I walked into a hostile roommate situation. Ugh. I also didn't have the financial means nor time on account of my job to try and find a new place. Bro, you got time. Do it on your lunch, bro. You got time. Anything but this. We will make the time, okay? The current roommates that were there were Roomie 1, R1 for short, and Oskar, the star of this house of horrors. I gave him the name Oskar as a nod to that Hey Arnold character of the same name.
I must be in heaven. Oh no! Oscar's here! This must be the other place!
Oh my god, core memory unlocked. The voice is somewhere inside me, I think. We'll see how it goes. Oskar is an unemployed mooch who only looks out for himself, hardly ever taking responsibility. This Oskar, however, had little to no redeeming qualities, and I'm sure y'all will find that out soon enough. I look forward to unraveling his degeneracy. Roomie 1 was an elderly lady who worked from home doing financial work for the local town government. She was an aging hippie with a good heart and had a big fur baby of a pit bull that I enjoyed spoiling with treats and belly rubs. I got along quite well with Roomie 1. Dude, old people in general are pretty easy to get along with, to be fair. Given her age, work hours, and having a physical disability, I also did small chores around the house for Roomie 1, such as shoveling the steps outside of the house, helping her move stuff to her car, etc., all of which she did pay me for. She seems like a good egg. She works for the government and is a hippie and has a pit bull, but she does seem like a good egg, despite that. I also got along quite well with Oskar in the early days, says OP, as we both liked a lot of the same music, comic series, and movies. He was an older guy in his 50s and often dressed like a grunger from the 90s. He did not work. Instead, he attended college online and kept saying that, I will get a job once my classes are over. Is that the Oskar voice? I think it's close enough. He also had a nasty drinking problem that would rear its ugly head as time went on. Him leaving beer cans in the kitchen sink for days on end became a recurring theme, and over time, most of our recycling consisted of literal contractor bags full of beer cans. I asked him early on to please not leave beer cans in the sink. And I even pointed out that those cans were applicable to be recycled in this state. He shrugged it off, saying that he didn't have time outside of his classes. So I didn't press the issue, as I had other things to worry about. Dude, that's free money you just left sitting around. Those are like a nickel each. You don't want them? Can I have them? I'll do the legwork for 20-30 bucks. Sure, why not? Why does my car smell like stale beer, officer? Well, I just love recycling. OP continues. I was too busy focusing on my own work and life to really get mixed up in their constant fighting, as well as I was out of the house most days, away from their constant arguments. The only time that they were civil to each other was when I was in the same part of the house as they were. That makes it even more awkward, honestly. I don't know the dimensions of this apartment, but it's probably pretty small. Like, anytime either one of them steps out of their room, they just start fighting like cats.
Hey, shut up!
There were a lot of back and forth accusations of cheating the welfare system or having a drinking problem, substance abuse, not cleaning up after oneself, etc. It all became a blur. After only a week, I just stopped paying attention. I mean, honestly, after a certain point, who can even bother caring anymore? You think I want to get involved in your petty little drama when I'm trying to, like, make my own life happen? All I do is live here. If you could not talk to me while I'm living here, that would be great. Kind of impossible, but also pretty cool. OP says, less than 3 weeks after I had moved in, Roomie 1 had moved out. Oof. And it took another month for movers to come and move all her stuff out of the apartment. Roomie 1 and I are still on good terms to this day, and she still says that I was a very pleasant roommate. I think the best roommate I ever had was Andrew, but my favorite one's Ramtide. It was only after Roomie 1 left that I really saw Oscar's true colors. I will now be switching to the classic numbers format to add a bit of order to this madhouse. And I love the numbers because it gives me a good stopping point. Not that the numbers ever stopped me before, but when the number changes, that means it's time for a longer exposition than usual. Anyways, Chapter 1, Story 1. Society owes me an explanation. I also did small chores for Oskar early on, such as driving him to the food bank, driving him to the local big box stores, as well as shoveling snow out of the steps/footpath. He did pay me for these tasks, as I had bills to pay. I mean, paying you for your work does set a good precedent, but he's paying you with my money. OP says, you see, when I'm driving, I love to chat with people. It helps me get to know them, and helps them get to know me. So I shared some of my own backstory with Oskar, and I told him that I was trying to live a good life, keeping sober and sane through a combination of good food, exercise, the great outdoors, healthy hobbies, and weekly therapy. Love to hear it, man. That's like the antithesis of what Oscar's about. This is Felix and Oskar, but like in a different way. Is that too old a reference? Y'all remember The Odd Couple? Whatever. While I am someone who views life and the world to be inherently unfair, I don't let that stop me, and I push myself to be successful, as I maintain a good present for myself so that I can continually build a better future for myself, as well as hopefully pass on the things that I've learned one day to the next and future generations. I love that the world's unfair. Give me greater challenges. That's what I say.
I don't want peace. I want problems, always.
I'm ready to take it on, dude. It's only when you reach your lowest point that you find out what you're really capable of. Oskar, on the other hand, took a very different approach. He fancied himself a peaceful revolutionary. That his ideas were going to fix the world, though if only everyone else was smart enough to listen to him. His daily life outside of college classes largely consisted of watching TV, playing with Lego sets, and drinking himself into oblivion. That sounds like such a cool thing to do at 20, but if you're still doing it at 50, I don't know, man. Maybe take a look around. Oskar would make grand claims that he was developing ways to save the world and help people be more conscious of their spiritual health by giving me money.
Oh, Arnold, I need money. I'm desperate, little buddy. You gotta help me.
However, any recommendation for him to stop drinking was met with instant hostility, with him claiming it was from nature and totally not addictive. Dude, that's what like the really hardcore potheads say. They just freak out. They're like, no, you can't even become addicted, bro. It's like, I don't know, man. Let's just maybe for a minute try to look at this thing through the lens of objective reality. It seems like you're an addict, which, you know, as long as it doesn't affect your life, none of my business. But just be real and know that about yourself. During this conversation, Oskar tried to convince me to try drinking again, saying that sobriety was not natural and that 12-step programs are fascist cults. I shut that conversation down really quickly, to say the least, saying that my sobriety was not up for debate. See, he wants to drag you down into the darkest depths with him. Can we cut in the crab pot thing again? We cut it in on 4chan Green Text yesterday, but we'll recycle it.
The only thing a crab is good for is holding back other crabs. A crab don't want to see another crab make it.
Video's never complete without a Boondocks reference, isn't it? I do want to say, though, also, great response, OP. Other than that, he spent a lot of his time blaming everyone else for his problems, as expected. The first example I saw of this is on one of those days where I drove him to the food pantry, only for him to find out that the food pantry was closed that day. Instead of moving past this, he whined the whole way home about it being the food pantry's fault for being closed. They should be open 24/7, and that the sweet old ladies behind the counter were a bunch of, well, nasty words that I'm not going to sit here and type out. Like, you have internet access, don't you? You don't want to just Google the hours before you go? You really have drunk yourself stupid. Be it his family disowning him after 3 interventions, he came from a wealthy family with political connections, be it the local cops after he lost his driver's license after 3 DUIs, his car getting impounded due to said DUIs, or even getting a dishonorable discharge from the army, Oskar blamed everyone else for basically everything that went wrong in his life, saying that he didn't need to change anything about himself, that it was society that had to change. This also ties into the tale about his short-lived military career, which I guess we'll get into next. The only thing that I even really want to say about the entire story is, like, yeah, personal responsibility goes a long way. And being honest with yourself, even when it hurts. Like, throw your ego out the window because it doesn't help. Just look at all of it and everything you do outside of yourself and see. It's not easy, but practice, and then you will truly see. Oscar's like, I have a solution for this. It is called beer goggles.
Hey, wait, what about my reward?
I guess life does look better that way. Anyway, into story number 2, a tale of dishonorable discharge. Is that a euphemism? Did Oskar catch an STD? We'll find out. You see, Oskar had been in the army in his youth with the dream of one day being a general. Wow, from general to peaceful revolutionary. What a story arc. Even back then, however, Oskar had a nasty drinking problem and still did not view his drinking as a problem by the time of him telling me this tale, saying, alcohol comes from nature, so it can't be that bad. Cyanide also comes from nature. He had several variations as to why he was kicked out, though I'll be sharing the one that sticks out the most in my own memory. Even then, I'm not entirely sure of the real story. Some details may be amiss, though I'm only relaying what I picked up through his drunken ramblings. I was also never in the service, so I'm speaking from the viewpoint of a civilian. Don't sweat that too hard. Civilian life, best life, that's for sure. So you see, while stationed at an unspecified base in the United States, Oskar had gone AWOL while on guard duty, taking a military jeep off base to go drinking at a nearby town. He even bribed one of the guards on duty to let him off of base. I don't know how he ever thought this was going to work. In short, he eventually found out that his commanding officer was looking for him, so in his infinite wisdom, he got back into the military jeep and floored it back to the base. He ended up driving right into the guard outpost. The guy he bribed had gone elsewhere, so it was a different guard that was in the guard post at that time. The guard was left paralyzed from the waist down. Holy shit. Story just got a lot less funny all of a sudden. And even testified that Oskar had gotten out of the vehicle unscathed, clearly very drunk, blaming the guard for moving the security booth. The guy who Oskar had bribed never came forward, likely to save his own skin. Dude, yeah, wow. Hang him high. I don't even know if a dishonorable discharge is good enough. Like, they didn't send him to Leavenworth for at least a few years? I mean, he's 50, they might have. What a piece of shit. Harming others. Nothing will make a person lose their humanity faster in my eyes. In the end, Oskar was sent to the brig. For how long? Decade at least, come on. And he was given a dishonorable discharge upon his release. His dreams of being a general, now non-existent. Jesus, how did the judge not throw the book at him? The guard that he paralyzed, however, was given an honorable discharge and even went to college after leaving the army. Last Oskar heard, that man now lives in a nice house, works a desk job for one of those 3-letter government agencies, and even has a wife and 2 kids. Yeah, and all that without the use of 2 of his legs, thanks to you. And Oskar laying there, able-bodied, just shamelessly being a piece of shit. Karmic justice is sort of sweet sometimes. I mean, it sucks for both of them, but universe teaches harsh lessons. I don't know. To this day, Oskar still blames everyone else in that situation for ruining his dreams, believing that they had it out for him. He even blames the structure of the outpost, claiming it was too narrow to be safe.
Are you serious right now, bro?
I don't think I could be around this person. I would be physically angry if you told me this story with a smile on your face. I'd be like, do you even think about the man whose life you ruined? Didn't he have dreams, Oskar? Do you see anybody outside yourself? Oh, God, I'm starting to boil up. But before I do that, let's move into story 3. Job interviews and hygiene habits. Yes, they go hand in hand, don't they?
Tell me, are you good with your hands?
Oh yeah, I'm very good with my hands. Look, I can do this.
Oskar had horrible hygiene, only doing his laundry when the smell became too much to ignore. He prioritized cheap beer over laundry money. When he would go to job interviews, he would often go in drunk and or wearing dirty clothes, and then he'd whine about not getting the job, often whining that the people interviewing him were so mean to him. He eventually stopped looking for work, proudly stating, "I'm done contributing to capitalism." If you're really taking that stand, then go off in the woods, dude. You're still taking that money. You're participating. I'd be mean to you too. You show up to an interview looking like a bum, especially without a good excuse. This time slot could have gone to somebody who could at least pretend to give a shit, you know? Story 4, cleaning hypocrisy. Oskar loved to cook, and it probably was one of his very few talents, as he was really good at making Italian food. He would share the food that he cooked with myself, Roomie 1, and the landlady. However, he would then leave the dirty pots and pans in the sink or on the stove for days on end. Often because he liked to use sugar in a lot of his recipes, his messes would attract a lot of flies. It didn't help that he would also pile his empty beer cans on top of these dirty pots and pans, only making the mess smell even fouler. Yeah, making a foul soup right there in the sink. You know how easy that stuff is to clean if you just get it under some water like same day? But yeah, if you can't clean up after yourself when you cook, then please don't cook. Whenever I asked him to please clean up his mess, he would get very defensive about it, saying how he was a grown man and he would do it when he had time, and he was too old to be ordered around by other men. Heh. What's the matter, Grandpa? The arthritis getting to you? Maybe you just shouldn't cook no more. Applesauce and strained peaches for you for the rest of forever. As for OP, he says, I tend to stick to a leave no trace policy in the kitchen, though I will admit I'm not perfect. If I left so much as a dirty bowl or an eggshell in the sink, he would pick up on this and act as if it was the end of the world, claiming that you can't leave a kitchen messy, seemingly oblivious to his own mess. Yeah, that's the point you tell him to go screw. Gesture at his dishes, make an incredulous face. There was even a time when I was working when Oskar sent me a photo text of an empty oatmeal packet that I had accidentally left on the counter that morning, acting as if I had committed some horrible crime. He has nothing else to do all day. He sits around the house and gets angry over empty oatmeal packets. Do not allow this man to have any effect on you whatsoever. He's hardly worth acknowledging, definitely not worth respecting. OP says, I did make a comment then about the pot calling the kettle in regards to his own current mess in the kitchen, and he lost his damn mind, sending me a wall of text screeching about how he was a grown man. Prove it. When I got home that day, he half-heartedly apologized, though still tried to make the point about please keep the kitchen clean, despite his own mess that was still covered in flies. Maybe photo texts are the only way he knows how to communicate? Just send him a bunch of pictures of his own dirty dishes every day. Is that passive-aggressive enough? Let's hope. I was too tired and angry to even argue, so I snapped, I work for a living. I have better things to worry about, before going to my room. He would only ever clean the kitchen if the landlady forced him to. Again, OP with the really just laying it down so flat. Them's good words. I got better things to worry about. You're around the house all day. You clean up my fucking oatmeal packet. Story number 5, landlady arguments. There was one night, a few days after Roomie 1 had left, that Oskar and the landlady got into a vicious argument that lasted well into the early hours of the morning. There were comments about his refusal to work and his various excuses as to why he did not work and how he was 4 months behind on his rent. Dude, that's an eviction plus one. How'd he get away with this? It was throughout this arguing that I learned that Oskar and the landlady used to be married. Oh, and that while they kept on a good public face, their relationship was incredibly hostile. The plot is definitely thickening up nicely, isn't it? I honestly tuned out most of the arguments as I was playing a video game to de-stress from a particularly bad week of Karens and their little crotch goblins. Their argument did not turn physical, although I had the police on speed dial just in case it did. However, when she threatened to throw him out so she could, quote, find someone who actually pays their rent, as she was losing money from letting him live rent-free, Oskar first whined that he had nowhere else to go, before dropping the line, if you throw me out, I will delete myself, making reference to the nearby freeway that often had big rigs going along the road. Here's what you do. Get the eviction notice, call the police, alert them to place this man on sewer slide watch. Maybe you get some professional help. Bing, bang, boom. Your hands are washed of the whole thing. You're welcome. The landlady, in tears, backed down after his threat, and their fighting stopped, with Oskar yelling how it would be her fault if he did it. So yeah, that's the emotional maltreatment part. Yeah, even though they're divorced, they're just so closely intertwined. What a horrible situation. For both of them, for her more than him, though. Looking back on all this, I really should have intervened, though a part of me feels that I would have only escalated things. Yeah, probably not something you want to get mixed up in. They've got their weird little dance that they do, and then they go back to ignoring each other. The next morning, they both awkwardly tried to explain the argument away. They also brought up the fact that, yes, they were divorced. In a moment of pure malice and spite, I casually mentioned to Oskar that I had tried to delete myself 3 separate times in my life, and that if I were to attempt it again, I would not be selfish enough to traumatize a poor big rig driver, that I would do the deed solo. To see his eyes go wide and the color drain from his face was delightful to witness. Again, though, I do agree. Like, why do you need to take somebody with you? I guess because he doesn't see other people as human beings. They're all just pawns in Oskar world. Looking back, I admit I should have left that place sooner. I would have rather lived in a crappy roach-infested hotel room that winter than had to deal with any more of Oskar's drama. However, I am someone who is known to indulge in schadenfreude from time to time, and coupled with my low funds and the dead of winter, yeah, that's why I stayed around for as much of this as I did. I assure you, Oskar gets much worse a bit later on. If you're interested in a part 2, feel free to comment below. With always, peace, edit, space, and grammar. Yes, I would like a part 2. Please wrap this turd up for me. It's like a BadRoommates meets Neckbeard stories, and yeah, that's just a beautiful hybrid to witness. Not for you, sorry you had to go through it, but thanks for coming back with the story. I hope that you guys liked it, friends. Like, comment, sub, show Roaming Rivers some love, because he's a real good guy. Do check out my Patreon and my YouTube channel memberships if you'd like to contribute a bit more directly. Not to him, to me. But I would appreciate it. Always remember, friends, that you are loved, you are worthy, you definitely deserve it, and I shall see you in the next one. So until then, bye-bye. Go ahead and cut them open. It's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine.